So hello everybody. My name is Mateja and I'm a business analyst. And currently I work as a consultant for the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control. I think that was enough about me. Now it's your turn. I have a couple of questions for you, I promise. It's only two. And you can even choose the color. So the blue one or the orange one, which one do you want first? Blue one. Oh, that's a tough one. Okay, you ready? How was your lunch? Please use your hands. 1 for lousy and 5 for I ate so much I can barely breathe. All right, cool. Well, with the average of 4.9, I'm quite happy. Because, you know, there were some experiments that supposedly shown that even judges tend to be more merciful after a good lunch break. So I'm kind of happy with this time slot. All right, this leads us to our second question. Ready? Do you know about this movie? Have you seen any of the version? Who has? Yeah? Okay, good. So it's a good one. I prefer the one on the left. Okay, great. So now the reason I'm here is that I actually need your help with a small matter. So I recently encountered a situation. There was a story. I think you know all the actors and their usual wants and needs and complaints. But this time there was something unusual. So they were all feeling a bit anxious and not really familiar with the strange new kid on the block. So now it's time for you to shine. I'm going to ask you to be sort of a jury in a little session that we're going to have in the next couple of minutes. Let's call it State versus Citizen Developer. So how many of you have heard of this term? A couple of you? Okay. I'm going to explain a bit the basics, and to do that, first we're going to have to go back to this guy. Now, you all know him, the C-level guy, the business owner. He has been around not for years, for centuries, right? Okay. And no matter, during this time, no matter how the environment changed, the people changed, their behavior, the tools that they used for these businesses, one thing remained the same. What was that? It was actually the goal of these businesses. What would you say? What it is? What are they striving for? Profit? Okay. What else? If I'm a scientist, maybe I would want something else. If I'm a social worker, maybe I want something else, right? Okay. But let's say that the common umbrella we can use is actually success, right? Okay, now success means different things for different people, of course, and there are many definitions about it, some less poetic, some more, but the one I really liked is from Jürgen Appello, and he says that success is actually a continuous absence of failure. So it sounds kind of cool, right? As long as you're not failing, you're succeeding. Kind of sounds like something this guy would say, right? Okay. Now, let's go back to present time. So the world of today is actually inspired and led by technology, right? So this actually has also impact on the business. Let's see how. So first of all, the amount of data that we collect now is quite insane, right? Because you know the fact that in just a matter of 2 days, we now collect more data than we have for the past 2,000 years. And now we have an increasing power of computation, of analyzing this data, of learning from it, right? And then we have the fact that more than 4 billion people are actually online using the internet, right? So this has to have some impact on the business. Okay. On the other hand, we see another change. So the average lifespan of a company, especially a big one, is decreasing over the years. So we have gone from nearly 60 years in the past century to companies that cease to exist even before they reach their teenage ages, right? Okay, on the other hand, our lifetime as lifespan as humans and as workers is increasing, okay? So what does this mean? That we are becoming more and more mobile. So we change companies, jobs, even careers, right? So it's really hard for companies to attract talent, to keep talent, working for them, working with them, okay? So what would you say is actually the reason why these big companies die, or not so big companies? What are they failing at? Yeah? True. Most of the experts or the articles agree that it's actually the fact that they are too slow to anticipate or react to the change, to new stuff, whether it be new technology, new competitor, new market demands, new whatever. So it's basically Darwin's theory of evolution applied to capitalism, right? So basically, in order to survive in the business, you have to continually evolve and improve in whatever it is that you're doing. Okay, so it is no surprise that in recent years, this term was really the main buzzword, right? You all know about it, especially those working with the public sector. They are, all ears are filled with them. Okay, and I also know that all of us hate definitions, but bear with me for a couple of seconds, because this is, it has some good points. So, first, we are using technology to create something new. So it actually, digital transformation means doing what Airbnb that did to the rental market, right? Or what Uber did to transportation, okay? So basically, if you're this guy, well, good luck, yeah? I wouldn't want to be in those shoes. So it's really hard for them. And although it's said that digital transformation, it's not just about technology, it's really not something that you can separate from, right? And for a lot of businesses, or most of them, digital transformation actually means making use of IT products, okay? And this means spending a lot of two things in creating them. Which two things? Time and money, yeah, that's right. And this time and money is spent with IT teams trying to analyze, trying to define, trying to build, trying to test and deploy a lot of software applications. So, the business needs IT, right? And IT is expensive. So it's a bit of a problem. And as soon as there is a problem, you can bet everything you have that there is somebody out there trying to make money solving that problem. Okay. So this brings us to our next character in the story. Let's call him Sleek Vendor Guy. Okay. So he goes to this CEO or business owner and he says, look, man, I know your troubles, but I have just the thing for it. Ta-da, meet the low-code platforms. So basically, what they can do for you. You just gotta have somebody with basic technical knowledge. He's gonna use our cool visual and drag and drop stuff. He's gonna move them around a little bit and build applications in no time, okay? So can you guess this guy's reaction? So he can get applications fast and basically anybody can do it while having fun. The guy was like, how fast can I have it? And that was even before the vendor guy said, but you can even choose your colors of the application. All right, so this is how we have a nation of citizen developers walking all around. And this is what's happening, right? A bunch of people, ordinary ones, non-IT, building applications, right, with minimal use of IT. Not really, yeah? Okay, because we are still needed. And why is that? In order to explain that, you're going to have to travel a bit to the north with me. I'm going to use a real-life example. So we are going back to ECDC. They're actually, ECDC is a home to public health experts, and they love their job, they are good at it, and they try to keep Europeans safe from any kind of communicable diseases. But while doing that, they really have to, being an EU agency, they really have to respect a lot of procedural stuff, and their processes are really heavy-based and really long. So they have to follow strict procedures in procurements, in grants, in basic HR processes, in the way they plan their work strategy, their expenses, their activities, whatever. Even when they want to publish a scientific article, that still means a lot of processes where a lot of people have to review and approve and sign something, and it takes a lot of time. So basically you have one or more pieces of paper traveling from one person to another, and it's time, right? Okay, so ECDC wanted to change that. Okay, so because time is money and they want to save money, they have to justify the money they spent to us, the EU citizens. Okay, so what they did let's say, a usual build versus buy debate. And what they opted out for was the K2 platform. So I'm going to use the next couple of minutes to explain a bit what that is and how they tried to use it in ECDC. Has anybody ever used this platform? Yeah, good, okay. I see you're frowning a bit, so I guess we share the pain, okay. Good, so K2, basically it consists of four basic components, let's say. You have your smart objects, they're basically data containers. Then you have views and forms, which we use to create the interface for the user, so the application screens. And then, lastly, you have the workflow, which is behind it, which is actually controlling who does what and at what time. Okay, now let's start with the last one, with the workflow. So this is the K2 interface for creating workflows. It looks kind of simple, right? And I can bet that everybody at the first glance can kind of understand what happens here. And you use it, it's kind of Visio-like, and you can create a workflow in no time. Actually, this is really useful also for in the analysis phase, because a business analyst can use this to actually not draw on a paper or use Visio models. He can actually do this, okay, and agree with it with the business. All right. Now, when you define the workflow, the next thing is to actually go into the details and dig deeper and decide what each of these boxes do and mean. So to do that, we are gonna take a look at one of the tasks. So you can say, okay, this is the instruction I want to provide. These are the actions that the user can take. So he can either approve it, reject it, or send it to somebody else for another review. This is the type of form that's going to be used for this task. I'm going to get back to that later. These are the people that are going to perform this task. And if there are more than them, we can actually define the rules. So, I don't know, if this happens, then this person should do this job. If something else happens, another person should do it. So, kind of neat. And it looks rather simple. Even if you haven't ever used it, you can just try and find your way around and play with it, which looks kind of cool. All right, then you can define the notifications that we'll receive, what's going to be the content of the email, how often they are going to receive it, are you going to send them any reminders if they were lazy, and so on and so on. And you can use the same principle to define any element of the workflow. Okay, now that we know who does what and at what time, we have to actually define how are they going to do it. Okay, so they're not filling paper forms anymore. We have to define the screens. So for that, we are using these two boxes here. In a lot of, especially in approval processes, basically a lot of the screens will kind of look the same, because if I enter some data and I want somebody to approve it once, twice, and on the second level, or third or fourth, then I'm going to see the same data in a lot of different forms, right? So that's why I can use the views to create the elements that I'm just going to copy-paste or reference them in different forms. Okay, enough with the talk. So this is how I create one of the view. On the left side, I have a toolbox. So I have neatly organized the elements. I pick any of them, drop them here, define their properties, and that's it. For example, I say that the first name is a text box, my date of birth is a date picker, and so on and so on. I can also use the rules to define what values I can enter there. For example, I can enter a minimum salary or a maximum one, or I can say that I cannot employ a person who is 5 years old, right? Okay, good. Now, this view, we can use it to actually embed it in a form. So here I will have, let's say, a header I'm going to reuse. I will have the body of the form. So in the approval process, this is probably going to be disabled for entry, and so on and so on. So that's it, basically. So the only thing left now is to define where does this data come from and where does it go once it's submitted, okay? So to do that, we go back to the first box, and it's called Smart Object. Smart Object is actually a way of doing that, and it kind of looks like defining a table in the database. So you have to say, okay, which are the columns, what is their data type, and some of their characteristics. So are they really required in the form? Are they unique? Are they primary key or something like that? Okay, once you are done with that, you also define the relations to other tables or other data that's on the form, okay? And then you define for each field or for each action on the form what's going to happen to these smart objects. For example, in our form, the drop-down departments, we're going to use the smart object department. We're going to get a list of IDs and display names of the department. Okay. For the entire form, when we press submit, we are going to save all the data in the form to the smart object that is called new hire. Okay. Good. So it looks quite simple, right? 4 elements, you just use it and reuse it and repeat it until you have a working application. Okay? Okay, not so much. You're guessing there's going to be some troubles involved here. So what happened in ECDC? Well, besides the normal constraints that you have when building a software product, there was another one that was imposed. And it was actually this box, the K2 tool, that then kind of pressed the businesses to trying to fit their requirements into this box. And yeah, that's not always a good point. And it's not something that you're supposed to do when you're building software. So this quarrel ended in one of 2 ways. So either the developers had to invest a lot of time to bypass this solution and trying to extend this box a little bit so the doggy had some more space, or the business had to adapt their requirements. So there always had to be a trade-off. Okay. All right, so giving birth to the first e-workflow application was really tough on all sides involved. So on the analysis side, on the business side, on the developer side. The second one went a bit better, and by the time they got to the third one, I think there were some valuable lessons learned. Let's go through with them together. First of all, the citizen developer, we learned that it's not actually a person or a role. It's actually a hat that you can just put on many different people in the team. For example, most of the time, the developers are actually the ones that are most commonly going to use it. And it can help them, this citizen part, can help them to avoid reinventing the wheel in building or rebuilding the same basic stuff of the application that they would have to do if they were doing it the custom development way. So it's basically like having a car factory that you just have the robots do the basic stuff, and you invent the brain part or the human part in the design, in the fine-tuning stuff. Okay. If the business is wearing this hat, so if we put it on them, it proved to be useful because the business users, if they are aware of the possibilities of the tool and the way that they can use it, they are actually a bit more braver into making the necessary cuts, into making their processes more straightforward, and thus becoming more suitable to be actually implemented in this tool. So it was kind of okay. And for the business analyst, when he wears this cap, it's also kind of great because he gets to have, or she, a larger role in the development part. So basically the blurry line between the analysis and development can actually be moved a little bit closer to the dev side. Because in the analysis phase, what I could actually do was prepare all the, instead of the usual mock-ups and the diagrams, those could actually be used later on by the developers to actually finish the application and to do the harder stuff reserved for the IT people. Okay, so to conclude, these are we have a large list of pros and cons, but these are, let's say, the summary ones. So on the pro side, here's what we have. So if your processes are straightforward or can be made that way, or you can make the business make them that way, then this is a really good stuff. So you can really get nice applications in a matter of weeks. So this is really cool. You also have some good out-of-the-box integration options. There's a good community support, nice vendor support, let's say. It's quite easy to learn. Once you get used to its nuances. The business analyst or the tester or anybody who is interested can actually create some initial parts of the application if he has the interest to. Also, some smaller changes could also be implemented by a team member. Okay? So that's the good part. The bad parts, the developers usually hate these tools, okay? And I guess there are some good reasons for it. For example, the biggest obstacle that they always put up is really a lousy version control, as they say it. It's really hard for them to debug, to find out what was happening in which version. I think the tool needs a lot of improvement there. Again, this part where you are trying always to fit the requirements to the solution, I don't think that's really what we are supposed to be doing. It should be the vice versa way. If you're trying to integrate with anything not supported by out-of-the-box part, that's kind of not really a good... you're not going to have fun doing that. This is also a bad thing. So depending on the vendor's agenda. For example, there was a period where K2 developed a new version. They called it K2.5. And all applications that were in a previous version had to be like, the workflow part had to be developed from scratch. That was a bit of a mess and an extra cost that you are not counting with when you have a tool that you are already paying support for. So that's a bit lousy. To conclude, you have less overall control, okay? And that actually leads us to the conclusion. So basically, solving business problems is not easy, okay? And choosing the solution to do so is harder than that. And you have to bear in mind that no two enterprises are the same. No two problems are the same, okay? And what you should do is do a careful analysis between the control you want to have over your processes. Okay, what does it mean? If you want to have the ability to have everything that you desire implemented at some point, then you will probably go for this custom software development, but the price is that you will have to pay a lot for it. On the other hand, if you are okay with pushing stuff to be a bit more straightforward, then definitely opt for the low-code platforms. And what is definitely necessary to incorporate is that you need to be aware of the fact that this is happening. We can ignore it, but it's true. I mean, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of tools, and we should actually try to make use of it, trying to see where you can fit this into your agenda, into your business plans, and it might make your pursuit of that success a bit more easy. Okay, good. Thank you for your time.
So we have 10 more minutes if there's any questions. Anyone? Yeah.
You don't have the box.
Thank you, boss. So I was wondering, is ECDC still using this platform or not?
Yes, they are still using it, and as a matter of fact, it's both good and bad because now they are still doing the workflows and they are trying to fit every possible process into it, and it's great. It's proven, I don't know, for some procurement procedures or some phases of it, it's shortened the time from like couple of months to just a matter of days, because chasing people around and having to review some stuff or tracking where your request got stuck, that was really painful and it took a lot of time. So they are trying and still are. And they are kind of stuck with this tool. I mean, it won't fit all the processes. They will have to, at some point, I think, rethink and reevaluate their options. But however, for all of these administrative processes, I think it's great, because in a matter of, I know, analysis takes like a couple of days. And analysis, I mean, you already have ready parts of the application, and the developers already know what to do with it, so it takes them like 2 weeks to just incorporate it, and it's ready to be pushed to production. So that's really cool.
Hello.
Hello.
As we all know, we have many industries in Croatia that are failing, collapsing currently. Like shipbuilding industry is the latest one. Would you recommend our government to incorporate a studying program for citizen developers or of any sort?
I definitely think that's a good way. Not just for, I mean, for these kind of platforms, but in general, to make the citizens more aware of the possibilities of the technology and make them see by themselves how they could use it, either to get a better job or to make their life easier.
We're talking about every Joe or Steph or...
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah. I mean, there are
They
different
could be
levels.
useful.
Yes, definitely, yes. Thank you. Okay.
Any more questions?
Good. Then thank you again. And for the verdict, you can find me at the bar. Thank you.